We began our journey in Cusco, sacred city of the sun, which was the capital of the Incan Empire. The Incas had a highly developed civilization in the 15th and early 16th centuries. The elevation of Cusco is 11,000 feet, and breathing, for us, is labored. Our crowd mills around as we begin our trip to Machu Picchu, a fortress city that contained the last vestiges of the Incan Empire after they were conquered by the Spanish in 1533. Llamas, or llamas as the natives call them, are important as beasts of burden and for providing much of the wool they use to produce the varied and numerous textile articles. Trying to hold that cart going downhill. We stopped briefly in Chinchero for both instruction and shopping.
Or the margaritas, you know? So we're going to use the root right here. This is the root of this plant. Limpia agua. Just pure water. What he's going to do, he is grading the root now. Yeah? See? Do you have any idea of what he's doing? For hundreds of years, from generation to generation. Okay? Take a look. Inca shampoo.
Inca shampoo.
Same company as Inca Cola.
Okay, so now we have the natural detergent. Of course, that's the way that our ancestors used a wool, sheep wool. You see how dark, how dirty it is? Yeah. He's going to
Está con espinas. Cultiva al campo.
some thorns.
Still seeds?
So see, take a look how he's going to wash it.
Çıkan balyamak çıkan. Çıkan hastayı çıkacak.
Take a look how dark the water becomes. I mean, to be honest with you, this is the ancestral way that our Quechua people, Andean people did, the way they did. To be honest with you, today people are using just the chemical detergent. But you can see now how white the wool becomes just with natural soap.
Wow.
Right?
Oh, wow.
You see the difference, right?
The weaving of textiles is an art that has survived over the centuries, and using the drop spindle method seen here is still the primary means of twisting the yarn.
Right here, this lady is using the drop spindle. What is she doing? She's making a thread out of the wool, right? She's making a single thread directly from this case. ¿Alguien está haciendo doble hilo? You notice when this lady is doing the single thread, this drop spindle is going clockwise, this one. Now this lady, I just asked if somebody was making a double thread. She's making double thread. So now once they have the single...
Are these all natural colors?
Natural colors.
Yes, sir. But like you just mentioned, sir, these are all natural colors. And like we said, we're going to see how they dyed it. Okay, let's come to this area. I mean, in this cactus. Okay, hopefully on the side of the road we're going to see this cactus, which is the prickly pear cactus, and we're going to see whites around all the cactus. What is this? It's this bug that is living in the cactus. What do we do with this bag? We bring it to these baskets and let it sun dry. And this is the bag right here. I mean, you may want to pass it around. Paulino is doing. He's making a powder out of that bag, and this is the result of it. Okay, this is a powder of the bag.
Just with water.
Paulino.
Look at the color, right? Yeah. Look, please, look, what do we use it for? Look what do we use it for? We export this for lipsticks, my friends, to Europe. During the day, we call him Paulino. At night, we call him Rosemary. Okay? Paulita. Look, please, we have some key lime here. Just going to add some drops. Look how the color changes.
Top is that.
So we most of the lip, it's little named Chilka. Okay? And right here we just have pure water. And right here we have it's a colpa, it's a mineral that they use in order to fix the color. Right? So you see, please notice he's adding the powder of the bug, the powder of the cochine, just in the water. And this other lady is adding the mineral just to set the color. Remove it. Look, this is just all sheep wool, white wool. But please notice that. Look at those colors.
Oh, how nice.
Aren't they?
Look at this.
Right. Exactly. For example, the bone, which is a llama bone. Llama bone. Or llama bone.
Yama bone.
Llama is the way we say it. So, what this lady is using this bone for is to split and separate and pick the threads, different threads that this lady needs in order to make the different designs that she is representing here. Like I say, like I repeat, knowledge that has been passed from generation to generation.
Weaving is extremely important to the Peruvian economy and culture. The woven goods for sale in this market are a primary source of income for many families.
De la danza de los obreros artesanos a una reunión o de un tributo a llevarse a cabo el día a las 1:15 de la tarde. Bueno, tenemos aquí un convocatorio que nos convoca a todos los compañeros sectores de la planta a una asamblea general partida de los 14 millones de dólares siguiente la tienda para tratar puntos de suma importancia sobre la que. Bueno, también comunicamos toda la expresión de la tienda colectiva local. Atención, atención, que va a llevar su sede en capacitación a las casas de la Clara, sede de construcción y gastronomía. Atención, las siguientes unidades humanas,
You forgot to ask her how many soles to take that picture.
I don't know if it went.
Nearly 20,000 feet.
These farmers are planting potatoes. Not exactly the modern farming methods we are used to. Along the way, we stop for lunch in these beautiful gardens. After lunch, we drive up a very steep and winding narrow mountain road to visit the Willock community.
Inca granaries. And Copperfield.
A precious hitchhiker. The Willocks are direct descendants of the Incas. The mountains are very steep and require terraced farming. Here is another family textile market. These young ladies are not married. I say that not because they seem so happy, but because they are wearing safety pins in their hats, a sign of a young maiden.
Soccer game, let me play.
Yeah, look at this one. Look at them pulling their legs off. Their legs.
Soccer, or football as most countries call it, is certainly the world's sport. Now I'll reverse the video playback on my camera so that they can see themselves.
Good, good.
Mitch, our guide, has brought bread to give to the kids.
Let them eat cake. Oh, crap. Oops. Wait a minute.
Barbara takes a break from her shopping.
You wave to yourself.
personally merke Bernal tas mençodanim kepşa.
Oh, my head! My head!
A home of adobe or mud bricks with one window.
Norma, do they belong to you? Hi, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, here's the rest of the herd.
Early morning at our hotel in UK in the Urubamba Valley is cool and dry. It is actually very pleasant at 9,000 feet above sea level. The natives certainly like bright colors. A small ox or two was atop every house to ward off evil spirits. On our way to Machu Picchu, we stop at the ancient Incan fortress at Ollantaytambo. Ollantaytambo was a 15th century fortress built by the Incas with a temple way up top. This area is pre-Inca construction, believed to be around the 8th or 9th centuries. Looking across the valley, we see a granary and agricultural terraces on the side of a very steep mountain. It is believed that the granaries were built high on the mountains because the grain was a gift for the gods, and up there it would be closer. To the left, a long face appears in the mountain. It is believed, however, that the face is not man-made. From here, the building on top appears to be a crown on his head. Below the temple was the ceremonial sector, where they washed before worship. This is the so-called Temple of Water, used by the Inca himself. Inside the Temple of Water is the Inca's fountain and his view down the valley. It is believed that these niches contained the mummified bodies of the Inca's ancestors. Mitch is explaining the Inca cross, or chicana, which is in evidence throughout the region.
The Andean people believe in, as well as the Egyptians. God's world, our living world, and there was as well an underground world. Okay?
This beautiful fountain was expertly fashioned to form the upper half of the Incan cross. And speaking of beautiful, after a 1.5-hour train ride, we arrive in the city of Aguas Calientes, just below Machu Picchu.
Del Grupo. Get to the shake.
We have finally arrived at Machu Picchu, a fortress high in the mountains, finally conquered by the Spanish in 1572, after which it was abandoned and reclaimed by the jungle. Looking east at the lower urban sector on the right, with its mundanely finished buildings, and the industrial district. These terraces are for agricultural purposes. The stones of the terrace walls were fitted together so skillfully that they left no gaps for the rains to wash out the soil. To the top left is the actual mountain, Machu Picchu. The home at the top belonged to the caretaker. This higher urban section contained the most important buildings. On the left is the agricultural section. On the right is the urban section or religious section. Straight ahead is the most famous and most important Sun Temple. The east window of the Sun Temple below receives a direct sun on the winter solstice. Adjoining it is the Nusta Palace. This finely hewn stone fit together without the use of mortar. The construction in this high urban sector is considered one of the most beautiful examples of Incan architecture. These beautiful vaulted niches are a part of the finely finished temple walls. The sun shines directly through this southeast window on the summer solstice. Below the Sun Temple is the royal tomb. It is difficult to imagine how the Incas accomplished all this construction without the use of the wheel and without beasts of burden. Mitch is saying how the Incas were respectful of Mother Nature and that they adapted their construction to the natural contours of the mountain. This door was the only access to the Sun Temple. It is believed that something hung from this stone. We are now in the area of the royal palace. It is believed that the Inca, the highest authority in the city, lived here.
Only house with a bathroom.
Well, what did they have? They must have had communal bathrooms.
Here we see one of the channels they built to bring the water down to the baths, seen here. The mountain opposite Machu Picchu is named Huayno Picchu, which means young peak. Around its summit there is some Incan construction. This grassy area is known as the principal plaza. Now it is the principal grazing land for the llamas. Although there are many opinions as to its original purpose, Machu Picchu was designed for self-sufficiency. We are now in the sacred plaza, looking at the Temple of Three Windows. Again, we see the top half of the Incan cross. The temple had 3 walls and 3 windows, with all windows facing the rising sun. This was believed to be the house of the high priest, the person who conducted the ceremonies on the plaza. This is the quarry. Here is evidence of their use of wedges to split the stones. I believe they are the native Quechua. Actually, I think she is a descendant of Charlie Chaplin and is following Maurice around, hoping for a job in Hollywood. It is believed this carved rock represents the Southern Cross constellation and likewise points to north, south, east, and west. Machu Picchu is some 7,900 feet above sea level. On this north side, the mountain is extremely steep and falls off quickly to the Urubamba River below. At the highest point of the urban sector, where those people are standing, is the Sun Rock. This irregular pyramid structure was built using the configuration of the ground. This so-called hitching post of the sun is not completely understood, although it was believed it was probably used as some sort of solar observatory as well as for religious ceremonies. The Incas believed that the sun god was supreme, and the complex certainly reflects that esteem. To the Incas, the condor represented the spiritual plane of the gods. This is the head of the condor and the altar area. In the background, the rocks form its wings. Some experts believe this was a prison area, but most don't know. They told us that if we hurried to the top, we could get some great pictures before the park closed. A few of us paid the price.
We can do it.
Something that is difficult to visualize is all the gold and silver that would have lavishly decorated many of the houses as well as the sacred buildings of the city. Kim and Patrick actually climbed Machu Picchu in the background.
So it went dun. Does that mean it took a picture? So I hit this and I heard it go ding ding.
It's recording now.
Okay, here, you take that back.
You take that.
You take a still picture?
No,
Does it take a
no,
still
it's
picture?
recording. It's
Oh.
recording as long as that
Okay.
red button is in there. Okay.
Something for you to remember me by.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's why we have editors.
Excellent. And now it's recording.
Yes.
Okay. Here's Chuck on beautiful Machu
Hi,
Picchu.
my name's Chuck Davis, and I'm here at the
Yes.
top of Machu Picchu to tell you about
Yeah.
The real Machu Picchu. Our hotel in Aguas Calientes was 6,500 feet above sea level. The jungle surrounding our hotel is teeming with beautiful flowers and more species of hummingbirds than you can imagine. I never did find out the name of this beautiful bird. Jerry's wife locks him in the room.
Is Jerry there? Jerry.
Free at last.
A rabbit. You've been talking this time.
What?
What's the name of this river?
I don't know the name of the river, but we can find out. And it's down there.
And let's not forget the local entertainers. Frog Mountain was actually carved by the Incas. On our way back to Cusco, we stop at a pottery factory that still uses the ancient Incan method.
Pretty.
This black one is actually an alpaca. Beginning our tour of the pottery works. These women are adding color to the tiles before what I believe is the final firing. Now it's time to buy. These blue and yellow macaws were very entertaining.
Beautiful. You guys are beautiful.
The Andes Mountains represent the longest mountain chain in the world, and only the great mountain ranges of Central Asia are higher. There are a number of peaks in this area between 16 and 20,000 feet. Kengo, referred to as the Temple of the Other World, lies just outside Cusco. It has numerous exquisitely carved steps, but there is really no explanation for them. Whoever had their other world party left their piñata here. Kengo, a ceremonial center, is thought to be one of the sacred shrines surrounding Cusco. This area was thought to be the amphitheater, but there is still no good explanation for these niches. There are numerous huacas, or sacred shrines, surrounding Cusco, and they are believed to emanate from the Sun Temple in the center of Cusco. It is believed that behind the ceremonial center there was a labyrinth leading to underground galleries. People of the upper class were interred in caves or rock shelters like this, while the Inca himself was mummified. All were interred in the fetal position. Sacsayhuaman, a huge fortress on a high hill above Cusco, was built to protect the Incan capital. There are no other walls in the world like these. Not the Egyptian pyramids, not Stonehenge, nor Mayan temple. Although the Incas were often warring somewhere within their empire, there were some 20,000 construction workers toiling to complete this vast edifice. By some estimates, it was completed in 1508 after 60 years of construction. Sacsayhuaman probably had the most elaborate Incan system of channels to provide running water throughout the complex. Mitch is showing us an example of where water flowed through the rocks. These walls were constructed of enormous stones fitted in the classic Incan style. This is the largest stone, about 128 tons. Although primarily a fortress, they performed sacred rites and held festivals here. The walls were originally 10 feet higher, but the Spanish took the smaller stones on top to build Cusco. Originally, there were 3 fortified towers, and it is said that they were covered in silver and gold. The 3 parallel zigzag walls seen here are 200 feet long. Cusco, the sacred city of the sun, was the capital of the Incan Empire. The Spanish destroyed the Incan structures and built their Catholic church and other buildings on top of the ancient foundations in an attempt to erase the Incan past. This Catholic church and convent was built over the ancient temple of the sun god. Much of the Incan temple was found behind these interior cloister walls. The convent has a single Baroque tower. Inside the convent, we find a major restoration effort. Many of the convent walls were removed to reveal the ancient Incan construction. This wall is part of a recent excavation. This is an area that will soon be excavated. The Coricancha, or Building of Gold, was known as the Temple of the Sun. Inside, entire walls were covered with gold sheets. A visiting class of young ladies from a local school. A ceremonial stone or altar. This is the smallest stone in the temple. Incan construction, with its symmetry, was, to say the least, interesting. The angle of this wall is the same number of degrees Cusco is from the equator. We move on to another meal, complete with entertainment. No trip is ever complete without more shopping. This time we start in the jewelry factory.
Start and obtain the color inside. For example, you can see here. You can see? Next, he used different sandpapers, more fine and polish again, and obtain the shine. For example, here, yeah?
Oh, pretty.
in the silver or gold piece. This process is very delicate because it's possible that this machine broke the stone, and he need the exactly size for make these designs, for example, in the stone or shell. Yeah.
Someone asks how he can keep from sanding his fingers off.
Use a special instrument, like this, for example. Yeah. Cap the small stone and polish here. Because, yeah, it's the same technique. Use the flat silver for make the form, and yarn silver for make the designs. Yeah. This is all in silver and made by hand.
Now we can get serious about llama and alpaca products. Lucio, one of our guides, is helping her buy shoes. The fit is like our trip. Perfecto. The Peruvian capital is a contemporary city of over 8 million people. It began as a Spanish settlement over 400 years ago, founded by Francisco Pizarro. In the background is the President's Palace. Lima has several outstanding museums that are rich in Incan gold and silver items. A magnificent gold breastplate.
So, when they were adults, they had huge earrings and huge ears as well. So they were called the big ear people by the Spanish people. Imagine the eyes of the Spanish when they came to Peru and they could see people like that. It was like, but you know, it was a concept of aesthetic, a concept of fashion.
A replica of an Incan burial tomb. This replica shows internment in the fetal position. These pieces are all pre-Columbian. These are called beakers. I wonder why. The Incas recorded several kinds of information on rope belts or quipos. These quipos were used for recording numbers. The gold jewelry was exquisite.
First it's Norma. There's the guy. Must be one of those California girls.